Time for another video. Okay. Last time we talked about how to start out on day one. Very similar to Doomsday. If you didn't watch that, I think I'll put a link somewhere around here, maybe. Somewhere. Maybe one of those little gray boxes. It'll be on this side or one of the two. You know how that goes. A couple other things to expound upon. Coda, I believe, asked about tiling to the gates right away. First, we're going to need to get our immunity up. I believe the first gates that we'll be able to go through are going to be 2800 immunity. So you're going to need to be there before you can start taking gates. It shouldn't take long before we start taking gates, but we won't be doing that right off the bat. So you'll focus on just kind of general tiling in the beginning. Next question was from Yoda, aka Gragu. I think that's, I don't know, I haven't been up on the, you know what I'm saying? Why can't I remember the name? What's the name? What was the name of that thing? Don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right. But Yoda asked if when you switch from one guild to another, if you keep your personal points. You do not. That is a drawback, which is why we want to get the alliances and get everybody together as quick as we possibly can. It really, hopefully, should not take all that long, I think, to start getting people over. Now, Ragnarok is next on the list, and he had a couple things he wanted to mention. So you can also, on that form that I have out there floating around, you don't have to just submit questions. If there's things you think that could be helpful for others to hear, you could submit that as well. One thing he talked about was that it's cheaper to use fighters. Consider whether you should use vehicles or fighters or even shooters. There's definitely situations that shooters could be useful as well. Just study your surroundings. If a tile's right by you, of course, you're going to use fighters. But if it's on 130 kilometers away or something, use vehicles. His next comment was reminding people that the further something is away, you'll start to lose the amount of damage that you're actually doing to stuff. So try to teleport close if possible. But I would also add on to that, one thing to remember is it takes 2 hours to build a teleport. It takes stones. It takes composite material. So we can't always teleport next to things we want to, but definitely when we're going for gates and things like that, we're going to want to make sure to build a teleport pad. If you didn't see, I added a little visual guide on what a teleport looks like in Eden to the Doomsday Guide, which I've been dropping links in the line chats with. Basically, in a nutshell, you have to have 4 tiles. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. You couldn't see any of my fingers, but I don't care. That's 4 tiles. You have to have them kind of build in a square. You can build a teleport pad on top of that. It takes 2 hours. Once that teleport pad is built, then you can teleport to it. So you have to have already have tiles in that area. So basically you would teleport up to a gate, a city, or whatever it may be, a bridge. Ragnarok and also a couple other people who I'll mention when we get to their other questions. I mentioned don't snipe other people's tiles. I mean, we literally had people quit the Alliance last season who quit the season because there was a lot of sniping going on in the beginning. It happens, right? Like, it's going to happen on accident. I did it accidentally to people plenty of times. Sometimes you just don't notice. But try to be cognizant. If someone's building a path to a tile and stuff like that, don't be an asshole. Really, just don't be an asshole. Or at least ask, right? Like, if it looked like they might have been building a path, but you haven't seen them doing nothing for a while, at least send them a message. If they don't respond after a little bit, then maybe take it and say, hey, I'll drop it if you did intend to take it, whatever. The last thing Ragnarok asked was, when are we going to be merging when the guild reaches 200 people, or are we going to merge before that? We're going to be trying to get people over as quick as possible, right? We are one team that right now has to split up into 2 groups. That's the way that Eden works, so we're going to have to make do. But as soon as we can start getting our peeps all together, we should do that. Next questions are from Latex Ranger, and he asked about setting up your specialty points when we start Eden. I kind of did a little bit of that in the first video, right? So you're going to want to go ahead and, after you already go to blue down, which is what you do first, to build your extra buildings, and then you're going to get as much immunity to the right as you can, 2 processing queues. If you have anything left after that, go for 1-hit vehicles. If you still have something left after 1-hit vehicles, I would suggest going for extra RSS coming from your tiles, which I believe is green up. Tex's second question was, are the specialty buildings, the honor structures, processing plants, the immunity research facility, Salt Fortress, etc., are they the same as they are in Doomsday? Yes, they are. But what's different is they really don't mean a damn thing. Your research facility means something because it's your immunity level, and your processing plant is going to process but we don't have the traditional Alliance Center like before. So we'll still build them, but it doesn't really matter how we build them. They will be in our home state, and nobody's going to be trying to attack them. So, yeah, that. So the next set of questions is Pain, Yoda, and Tessa, all on one sheet. They talk about here about mentioning the times that it takes to teleport. So we did that already. It takes 2 hours to build a teleport. Also the time it takes to take down a gate or city. Like I previously mentioned already up in her, we have to tile up to it. We have to get up to those gates or cities, etc., etc. And you actually get time limits. So I believe it's half an hour for gates and an hour for cities. But really, it's going to take as long as it takes us to get the Dura down to 0. So it's really up to us and how hard we hit it and what our immunity is. But our immunity has to be high enough to hit it. So it's a strategic thing. We don't want to do it too early. We need enough people with the right immunity to do it, etc., etc. But the time it takes to do it is really up to us, really. I mean, there is a time limit, but we'll, of course, do it before the time limit's up. So the other thing that they mentioned was adjudicators. In order for us to get as many of the little, you know what I'm saying, the little green bottles that help you heal faster, that speed up the healing, and also the extra rewards, we should try to do 2 people per adjudicator. So if you already see that there's 2 people on an adjudicator, don't hit it. Start a new one. Sounds smart to me. So now Parker asked, is there going to be any kind of coordination when it comes to placing the honor structures? So we can definitely get a call going if we need to, but it's not like past seasons. It's not going to be as important to how we're lined up. So probably just try to keep it neat so that we're not like all over the place. Put similar buildings next to similar buildings. If people feel like it's too chaotic, I can get a call going for sure, but we shouldn't need one. Now, we mentioned earlier in the video, Tex asked a question about honor structures, that it's not the same as in past seasons. Our honor structures don't matter in terms of us needing to protect them this season. The gates, the cities, those type of things on the map, those are going to be our alliance centers and our honor structures. We're going to have to take them and protect them after that and try to keep people from taking them from us. So those are really what would be like in the past what has been our honor structures and alliance centers, the things that we're going to want to protect. Ancient Alpha is asking about teleporting as well. His questions are a little bit different. They aren't about how long it takes and stuff like that. He asked, when we first come into Eden, do we get to choose where we teleport? You know what? I don't know. Let me go find out. And it appears the answer is you randomly teleport into the same sector that the rest of your guild is already in. So you'll be in the general vicinity of the rest of us when you first enter the Eden map, but you won't necessarily get to pick where, and it won't be necessarily right next to anybody, but it will be in the same sector of the map. Now, the second part of Mr. Ancient's question is, how do we know where to build teleport pads? Well, that's really kind of up to you. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, generally when we're hitting gates and cities, we're going to want to build teleport pads then. If you're really moving quite far away from where you currently are to start tiling, but remember it takes 2 hours, so you're going to want to start that in advance, kind of try to think ahead a little bit, see the diagram in the Eden Guide, the PDF that I've already shared. Now our final questions come from Rain. Yes, we should ungarrison our troops. Hopefully through diplomacy we won't have to worry a lot about getting attacked a whole bunch. I think it's going to all be based on who you are and how you feel. But other than that, it's just at risk of being attacked at all times, because you still have your base that was 70 years old or whatever, how far back in the past they say we go. It's kind of like having 2 separate bases. So I hope that answered that. If not, I do think it's one of those things that is still going to be kind of personal opinion. A couple other notes to add on here. It is really, really, really important for diplomacy that we do not take anybody else's tiles. Do not do it. We're only taking empties in the beginning unless you are directed by a team lead, an R4 or an R5, or guild lead, whatever the name is. Just don't do it. Period, point blank. So listen to directions from the leadership team. Look for the flags. Basically, don't do anything that might cause any kind of beef without authorization first. When we first join Eden, in the very beginning, we will have an 8-hour shield. That's the only time you'll have a shield. In that 8 hours, we got to get as much done as we can. That's a very important 8 hours for us to build up and grow and be a deterrent from anybody even trying to touch us in the first place. Anyway, it's Mills, LS8. Peace, y'all.